some of you weren't here last week and some of you were, so welcome everybody. It's just a bit like my granny's living room, this. So we've got a wee fire here. She would have had a big fire, but that doesn't work, that one, so we're not using that. Last week we looked at the travelling folk and their transmission of what was in the cultural landscape of the people. And they were the main transmitters. And you can see on YouTube now, because Craig's been working extremely hard. I can't say thank you enough to Craig, really, because he's been working so hard to get this now on YouTube. So last session is now on YouTube. You can watch it. And each time we'll upload the session to YouTube with the songs that we're going to be singing. And you can learn them if you're drawn to them. But if you're not drawn to them, then you won't be learning them. So, but they're all going to be there. And as I unfold it all, and as the whole thing evolves, we'll be having more and more songs, more and more, and we'll take it, unfold it chapter by chapter. So tonight it's the songs of this area. It's the language of this area, and I'm going to be speaking a lot of Doric. And so in the northeast of Scotland, the cultural landscape was very much dominated by the farms and the farmland, and the farmers would have big farms, and young people would have been feed. They would go to what's called feeing markets. So there's one song, for example, that just described this. Everything's in the songs. Everything that you would want to know about the places and the land and the landscape and people's relationships with the land are all in the songs and the stories. So there's a song, for example, that starts, "When I was only 10 year old, I left the parish squeal. My father feed me to the mains to chaw his milk and meal." Now I'm just going to stop there because I'm going to translate that. When I was only 10 years old, I left the parish school. Education was a really important feature of the Scots culture, really. So most kids were educated by the church. When I was only 10 year old, I left the parish squeal. My father feed me to the mains to chaw his milk and meal. So we were poor, and my father rented my services to the mains, to the big farm, to chaw his milk and meal. In other words, so he could feed me, because my father wasn't really very able to feed me. Now that in the first two sentences of that bothy ballad is a whole enormous understanding of how it was here for the ordinary folk. And I'm going to start off with, I'm going to speak a lot of Doric tonight, and when I speak the Doric, I go right in the Doric and I kind of get out it. I can't get, I don't, when I go in it, it's like being at home, and I often don't, I just can't get my head out it. And sometimes I burst into it. It's just how it works in my head. So, my mother, as I explained last week to folk, my mother wrote in the Doric. She wrote poetry in the Doric, and she was passionate about the mother tongue. And everything that I say to you tonight and everything I'm going to be doing in the future, I'll translate it all so that everybody understands all of it, because meaning is so fundamental to life, and it's fundamental to the songs, and it's fundamental to our being in this land, our search for meaning, really. So I'm going to read one of my mother's poems first, which is about the mother tongue. My mother was quite a good poet, I think, and she got this. It was in the Scots national curriculum, this poem. So they were teaching it to Scots kids, and it's called "The Privilege," and I'll translate it as we go along. Dinna just use your mother tongue to sing o' days when ye was young, but ilka time ye open moo, use it to speak o' here and noo. So don't just use your mother tongue to sing of days when you were young, but each time you open your mouth, use it to speak here and now. Dinna mak it a curio, like an old fossil put on show. Bring it recht out into the licht and mak it work to keep it brecht. So don't just make it a curio like an old fossil put on show. Bring it right out into the light and make it work to keep it bright. It doesn't need to gang the way o' horse-drawn plough or fireside sway. It's fit to handle with a lathe, space shuttle, flecht or microwave. It doesn't need to go the way of horse-drawn plough or fireside sway. It's fit to handle with the rest. Space shuttle, flight or microwave. And friends, this is my mother's big bugbear, and friends, whatever else you do, there's a ploy you may never try. Dinna set out our tongue to study. There's plenty doing that already. So, and friends, whatever else you do, there's one ploy that you shouldn't really try. Don't set out our tongue to study. There's lots of people doing that already. There's learned chiels and dames and new that never have it in their moo. The more they learn, the less they use it. In daily life, they seldom choose it. So there's learned gentlemen and women now, at the moment, that never have it in their mouths. The more they learn, the less they choose it. In daily life, the more they learn, the less they use it. In daily life, they seldom choose it. Scots intellectuals, no less, they wouldn't want to sound like us. So Scottish intellectuals, they wouldn't like to sound like us. For speaking Scots, they feel unsuited. They only want to speak about it. For speaking Scots, they feel unsuited. They really only want to speak about it. Friends, gin you haven't reached that pass, I beg you, ilka loon and lass, use the old tongue and keep its edge sharp as a valued privilege. So she's saying, friends, if you haven't reached that place, I beg you, each boy and girl, use the old tongue and keep its edge sharp as a valued privilege. So when I was born into the Doric, and my mother was passionate. My parents are both Doric speakers, so we spoke it at home. And my mother, all her life, wrote in the Doric, spoke in the Doric, and I lived in England for 27 years, and I'd come home and I was like, oh my God. I was speaking like this. Because I didn't speak a Doric dunia. I mean, because they wouldn't understand a word I was saying. So I had to speak like this because actually we got it educated out of us. That's the tragedy of it all. And we watched all that happen. I wasn't allowed to speak it at school. No, kids weren't. And it was further complicated for me because I was born in a Gaeltacht. I was born in Argyll. I lived for a long time in Argyll. I came back to live in Argyll. So I had the Gaelic. And the Gaelic was around me all the time. So I had all the Gaelic tunes, but I wasn't really supposed to learn it, if you know what I mean. So when we go on through this, there's lots of Gaelic songs and lots of Gaelic tunes. But I don't have the Gaelic, even although I was educated in Oban High School, where my headmaster was John McLean and my English teacher was Ian Crichton Smith. These were people that were Gaelic scholars of the highest degree, but I didn't study Gaelic. I studied French because my parents thought it would be better for me. So it was a bit like my Who Hi Honel last week. We did the Who Hi Honel. It's a wee bit of that, you know. It's a bit about there's a shift in attitude between the Tuchters in the Highlands, in the West Highlands, and the folk for this area. There's a definite kind of just a wee bit of grist, if you know what I mean. The first song I'm going to teach you tonight, I'm going to share with you, is probably one of the best Doric songs. I just love this song. And it's got so much about the way of life of the people in this. And it's called McGinty's Meal and Ale. And it's all about a pig that gets drunk at a party. Now, we're going to be going, as we go on, progress through the evenings. We're doing 6 evenings. As we progress, we're going to go to some very deep places. But whenever we go to these deep places, I just want you to remember McGinty's pig. Because there's McGinty's pig. And anyway, it's McGinty's Meal and Ale, it's called. And I'm going to translate it first. So, you can imagine a farm kitchen, a big farm kitchen. Everybody's in there, they're having a hoolie. It's Balmanic's farm, which I think is near Torfinns in Aberdeenshire. Kincardineshire it would have been, actually, for Torfinns. There's a farmer called McGinty, and he's having a big party. And actually, every piece of the complexion of the human condition is in this song. There's pride, there's greed, there's shame, there's blame, there's God knows what. Everything is in this song. It's great stuff. And it's soul food, really. Although it's light, it's soul food because, people talk about healing songs, welcome. People talk about healing songs, but actually, this is about as healing as you get as well. Hello, Sandra. Welcome. Come on in. I'm just about to start McGinty's Meal and Ale. So, I don't know, maybe should I sing it first? But you'll not understand a lot of it. But I maybe should translate it first. I think I'll translate it first. So I'm going to go. It's a long song, and it's got a story. And the story you have to get. This is one song where you have to get the verses in the right sequence. Because otherwise you're getting a terrible mess. This is not a song of love, no, nor yet a song of money. Goodness, it's nothing very pitiful. It's nothing very funny. For there's Highland Scots and Lowland Scots and butterscotch and honey. If there's none of them for all, there's a mixture of the three. And there's not a word of beef, brose, which is a concoction of oatmeal, lots of oatmeal in this song, because they ate it all the time. There's not a word of beef, brose, sowens. Sowens is a sort of a curdled, it's like quark, curdled milky, cheesy stuff. Salty bannocks, no, nor pancakes, or peas and eggs for them with dainty stomachs. But it's all about a meal and ale. And a meal and ale would have been oatmeal, ale, sugar and whiskey, prepared when the grain crop was harvested. So a meal and ale that happened at Balmanic's farm. McGinty's Meal and Ale, when the pig got on the spree, when the pig got drunk, went on the spree. Mm-hmm. Now, next verse. So that's, and there's a chorus, which is, they were howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies. Now, you heard about the tinkies last week, like a caravan of tinkies, and some were playing tinkies as travelling folk. And some were playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up the how, tiddlywinks, as you know, tiddlywinks. For up the how, which up the glen, and down the glen, you never saw such jinkies, you never saw such craziness as McGinty's Meal and Ale when the pig went on the spree. Now, McGinty's pig had broken loose and wandered through the lobby when it open-shoved the pantry door and came upon the toddy. Toddy, you know what toddy is? It's whiskey and honey, sometimes in water. Now, he took kindly to the stuff like any human body. He thought it was great stuff, so he had a drink of it, like at McGinty's Meal and Ale when the pig got on the spree. Miss McGinty's a bit kind of... Miss McGinty, she came ben the house. The way was dark and crooked. She tripped over the pig because she didn't look. And she let out a skirl that would have paralysed a chuchet, which is a lapwing or a peeweep. at McGinty's Meal and Ale where the pig had on the spree. They were howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies. We're going to sing that chorus and we're going to howl, because everybody would howl in that scenario. Johnny Murphy, he ran after her, and over the pig was leaping. When he stood on an ashet. Do you know what an ashet is? That's an ashet. I brought an ashet so I can show you, because it's full of fine pieces. Just for those who weren't here last week, that's an ashet.
From the French?
Yes, assiette, yes, yes. Tramp it on an ashet that was sitting full of dripping, full of beef dripping, and he fell down. So he's running after her, and he was leaping over the pig, and he fell down and peeled his crown, hurt his head, and then burst into tears. As McGinty's Meal and Ale and the pig had on the spree. Then the pantry shelf came tumbling down, and he was lying, kerning, like stirring amongst soft soap, peas meal, corn flour, and yearning. So he was in amongst this terrible mess of sauce. What's the English for sauce? Just a mess on the floor with whatever it is. Like a golloch, like a beetle amongst treacle. But McGinty's wife was gurning. She was going, about, because there was a mess on her pantry floor, and she wouldn't stop nagging him. So then so they all heard this in the kitchen. They all came running Ben, and they found that the door was jammed shut. So they started pulling the door, and then, oh God, I should sing the song really, because I think that's the best thing, because translating it, but I'll have to go back because it's so broad, Doric. Okay, I'm going to stand up and sing this song, because it's as you have to stand up to sing it. This is nae a song of love, no, nor yet a song of money, faith, it's nothing vera pitiful, it's nothing vera funny. But there's Highland Scots, and Lowland Scots, and butterscotch and honey, if there's none of them for a, there's a mixture o' the three. And there's nae a word of beef and brose and sow and sauté bannocks, no, nor pancakes and peas and eggs for them with dainty stomachs, but it's aboot a meal and ale, it happened at Balmanock's, McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree, and they was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, aye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and down the how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's Meal and Ale, where a pig had on the spree. No, McGinty's pig had broken loose and wandered through the lobby when it opened shift the pantry door and come upon the toddy. No, he's ten kindly to the stuff like ony human body at McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree. Johnny Murphy, he's run after her, and o'er the pig was leaping, when he tramped on a nashet, it was sitting full o' dreeping, and he's fell down and peeled his croon, and quadna had for greeting at the McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree. Sing the chorus with me. They was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, aye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and down a how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree. Johnny Murphy, he's run after her, and o'er a pig was leaping, when he tramped on a nashet, it was sitting full o' dreeping, and he's fell down and peeled his croon, and quadna had for greeting at McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree. Syne the pantry shelves come rickling down, and he was lying kerning among soft soap, peas meal, corn flour, and yearning, like a golloch among treacle, but McGinty's wife was gurning at the sauce upon her pantry floor, and wouldn't let him be. They were howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, aye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and down a how you never saw such drinkies as McGinty's Meal and Ale, where the pig had on the spree. Sign, the crew come running ben, and fan the door was rugged, and it held the fester, the mair they rugged, till McGinty roared to bring an axe. He wouldna be humbugged, no, nor lock it in his ain house, and that he'd let them see. Syne the wife come trailing wi' an axe, and through the bar was hackett, and open shived the pantry door, sae ticht as they were packet, and the crew come rickling ben like tatties frae a bucket at McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree, and they was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and doon a how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Miss McGinty's ta'en the thing to hurt and hide it in her closet, and they rubbed Johnny Murphy's head with turpentine and roset. Syne they harled him with meal and ale. Ye really would suppose that he I missed that verse out. They had spurtles. Sorry, they had spurtles. That's a spurtle. They had spartles for stirring porridge. They had spartles, they had tatty chappers, faith they werena joking, when they swore they'd gar the pig claw, for it was never yoking. But by this time the beast was fou, and didna gie a dockin at McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Syne, something else happened in the song, and I can't remember it, but never mind at the moment, because we're all very tender with it. And then we diddly bopped it. I'll get the words in a minute. As McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Never mind, I sing along. Right, I've got them here on a bit of paper, and we're doing grand just now. And we're McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Sign the... Syne they ran skirling to the door, and found that it was tuggit, and it held the fester, the mair they rugged, till McGinty wrote to bring an axe. He wouldna be humbugged, no, nor lock it in his ain house, and that he'd let them see. Say the wife come trailing wi' an axe, and through the door was hackett, and open flew the door at ane, sae ticht as they were packet, and the crew come rickling out like tatties frae a bucket at McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. They had spartles, they had tatty chappers, faith they werena joking, when they swore they'd gie the pig claw, for it was never yoking. But by this time the lad was fou, and didna gie a dockin at McGinty's wheel and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Noo there's eely pigs and jeely pigs, and pigs for hard butter, but this pig was greeting fou and rowing in the gutter, till McGinty and his foreman trailed him out upon a shutter at McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. And they was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and doon a how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. Now Miss McGinty's ta'en the thing to hurt and hide it in her closet, and they rubbed Johnny Murphy's head with turpentine and roset. Syne they harled him with meal and ale. You really would suppose that he had hide it, sleep it in a mason's trough, and risen to the spree. Oh, weary fa the barley bree, and weary fa the weather, for it's keechering 'mong dubs and drink, they gang the wheel together. But it's little doot McGinty's pig is looking for another. Oh, McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. And they was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies, for up a how and doon a how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig gaed on the spree. So I better translate some of that, because it's quite tough, Doric. I think I translated half of it, didn't I? So we're at the door. They all ran screaming to the door and found that it was shut. and each time it held the faster, the more they pulled at it. And then McGinty wrote, bring an axe, because he wasn't going to be exposed as a nitwit in his own house. And he wouldn't be humbugged, no, nor locked in his own house, and that he'd let them see. So McGinty's feeling very proud of his house, and he doesn't like the idea of a pig getting the better of him, so he's a bit upset with people. And his wife, he's got this poor wee wife she comes trailing in with an axe. And, and through the bar was Hackett, and open shoved wife came trailing that, and through the bar was Hackett, and open flew the door at once, as fat, because they were all packed tight. And then all of them came rickling through. They fell on top of each other like potatoes in a bucket. At McGinty's meal and ale, with the pig had on the three. They had spurtles, which are these things. This is my grandmother's spurtle. You see how used it is. She's stirring porridge. They had spurtles, they had tatty chappers, faith they weren't joking when they swore they'd gie the pig claw, for it was never yoking. So they had spurtles, they had tatty chappers. They were not joking when they swore that they'd give the pig like a hammering. So such a hammering as it would never get up again. But by this time the beast was drunk and didn't give a shit about it all, so it was fine. And by this time and it didn't give a dockin. A dockin is the docks, the dockins.
I'm wondering about a word.
Dockin, do you know what a dockin? You know that green plant that you rub on your body when you... Green plant, she said. It's docks, docks? Yeah. A dockin, yeah, it's such a dockin. Didn't get a dockin at McGinty's meal. No, there's Ely pigs. I don't know what Ely pigs are. I think it's just, I don't know. But Ely pigs and jelly pigs and pigs for holding butter. But this pig was dreeting drunk, was screaming drunk, great crying drunk, and rolling in the gutter, till McGinty and his foreman pulled him out upon a shutter. They got a shutter and they put the pig on it and they took it out the door at McGinty's meal and ale for the pig to do. Miss McGinty took the thing to heart. You can imagine, poor Miss McGinty, she's upset and embarrassed, and she takes the thing and she hides in her closet. And they rubbed Johnny Murphy's head with turpentine and rosit. Rosit's the stuff that you, roset's stuff that you put on a fiddle bow. Rosin. Rosin. Turpentine rosit. Then they harled him with meal and ale, so they covered him with meal and ale. And you really would suppose that he had slept in a mason's trough, which is a place where you stir the concrete on a trough. You'd have thought he would have slept in there. I'd risen to the spree. So weary for the barley brie and weary for the weather, for it's keechering among dugs and drink that gang the wheel together. So weary on the whiskey and weary for the weather, for it's keechering is kind of milling around, stirring about amongst filth and drink. They don't go very well together. But there's little doubt that McGinty's pig is wishing for another of McGinty's meal and ale, where the pig get on the spree. So that's the story of it all. And it's just, there's so much in here that is pure Doric language. And there's so much about how people lived in those days and the kind of things that were important to them and their way of life, really. I'm sorry I codged it up, but sometimes you codge these things up. I haven't sung this for years and years, and I had to relearn it, and I got myself in a wee bit of a thing with it. So do you want to just do the chorus again? Because the chorus is great. They were howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies. Aye, and some were playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies. For up the how and down the how you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, where the pig get on the spree. So they were howling in the kitchen like a caravan of Tinky's eye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies. For up a how and down a how, you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig yed on the spree. They was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of Tinky's eye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies. For up a how and down a how, you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig yed on the spree. And they was howling in the kitchen like a caravan of Tinky's eye, and some was playing ping pong and tiddly widdly winkies. For up a how and down a how, you never saw such jinkies as McGinty's meal and ale, whar the pig yed on the spree. God, we've dropped a million miles, but you can imagine the fun singing a song like that. You can imagine just, you know, the talk of the town that would have been. It was written probably around the turn of the century, probably, last century, but by a guy called George, oh my God, George somebody or other. I can't mind the guy's name. Not sung so much now because it's got a lot of Doric in it, so folk didn't really sing it.
It's such a dense language.
It's very dense, yeah.
It's so tight.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is, absolutely. And it's interesting because, you know, if you're looking at processes, rhythm, it's got lots of rhythm in it. And rhythm's in the physical. So rhythm works in the physical. Melody, it's got lots of melody. And melodies on the emotions. And then it could have harmony, but it doesn't have so much harmony, but harmony on the mind, and then stillness on the soul. So a lot of these songs are on the first and second of the two of these. But as we move on, we're going to be going right much deeper into other things. I'm not going to. This is the sort of northeast local language segment that we're doing today. So in my own family, my grandparents were married at Coltfield here, and my grandfather was a fiddler, and my grandmother was a local fiddler, and he would take his fiddle and he would take it round the village halls and he would call the dances. And my granny would feed the populace, generally speaking, and she'd always say, now you just take up a fine piece. Take up a fine piece. You go in a house, you take up a fine piece. So as I was saying last week, I decided to get some of my granny's recipes, and this is tablets, so you to tuck up a fine piece. Now it's a bit sugary, but it's very much a staple thing that we used to eat. So just pass it round off the asset, just push the asset round and tuck up a fine piece. Take up something that, tack up a fine piece, but actually tack up a fine piece is much more than eating. Because you're taking out fine pieces of the heritage of the people, really, too. And it is a very fine diet, you know, and as we go on, you'll see how fine it is. Because I'm going to get on to the finest of our music, which is the pibroch, in my humble opinion, the sounds of the song, the exquisite pibroch tunes and songs, but we'll talk about that much later, one of the next sessions. So I want to show you this. This is my granddad's fiddle. And this fiddle, I'm going to read you a wee story about that, because my father, not only did my mother write poetry and sing, and my father danced. He was a great dancer, country dancing. And it was he just loved doing it. And he whistled dance tunes the whole time. You could hear him on his bike coming home and it would be all like that. You know, the whole village would hear Jimmy Allen coming home on his bike because he'd be, all the tunes would be coming out of his mouth, really. And he wrote also. He didn't write a lot, but now and again he decided he would write something. So this is a description that he wrote in 1995. That's the fiddle that my granddad would take to the dances. He'd be all the way around Kellis, Cullerne, round here probably on the bike, doing the calling the dances. And so I'm going to read this to you because it's one of my very precious things that my father wrote, and it shows you his progression through his whole love of dance. So he says, in 1912, my father, a gamekeeper and native of Perthshire, moved up to Murrayshire to work on an estate there. Dad, a self-taught fiddle player, had played for an old dancing master in his native Perthshire and was a pretty good dancer, having learnt while watching the master at work. So there were dancing masters that taught these dances, like that would have been in the 1880s. My granddad would have been learning that, 1890s. Mum was taken with the white waistcoat and a romance blossomed. The First World War started and Dad, like many more stalkers and keepers, joined the Lovett Scouts as a sniper. This is the First World War. So he was a gamekeeper, so they were very skilled at reconnaissance and they were very skilled at shooting things. And so they got conscripted in Elgin, and the Lovett Scouts became one of the Scots regiments that fought in the First World War. And quite a lot of them survived, because they were used for reconnaissance, they were used for sniping, so they weren't always in the front line of things. And that fiddle went all the way through the First World War. It went to Gallipoli, it went through France, it went with and it came back with my grandfather. And he was alive. And he married his lady, and I'll show you pictures of them. That was my granny. I'll just show them round because we're going to be talking about this in this wee article. That's him. That's my granddad. That would have been around about the time that he went off to war. That would have been around about the time. And this is one of their wee boys. The other boy was killed in the next war. But this is my father. I'll just pass him around. So as I'm reading it, you can see who I'm talking about here. Because they're local folk, really, to hear. So Mum was taken with a white waistcoat and a romance blossomed. The First World War started and Dad, like many more stalkers and keepers, joined the Lovett Scouts as a sniper. Time moved on and our happy family home in Murrayshire was visited by many of the locals to get a tune for Bob on the fiddle. He always started his thrash with the Smiths a Gallant Fireman. Die, die, diddle, die, diddle, die, diddle, die, 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 diddle, diddly, I, diddle, die, diddly, I, diddle, dee, I, diddle, diddle, die, dum, I, diddle, I, diddle, die, dum. The Smiths a Gallant Fireman. I remember dancing when I was 3 to that, because he would play it and he'd want me to dance to it. I wasn't really a dancer, really, but anyway, I did my best. So, the Smiths a Gallant Fireman, whereupon my big brother Bert and I used to pull faces behind his back. Dad threatened, but never scalped. The nearby village hall was the scene of many a great night's entertainment with the fiddle. Bob attended all the dances and in his +4s, which are +4s are, they were always tied here, so they had the sort of breeches, because they couldn't let anything get up your trouser leg. And they would be made out of tweed. So it's +4s. With a fiddle, Bob attended all the dances in +4s, but minus the eye-catching white waistcoat, which had been eaten by moths during 5 years enforced idleness and a bothy kiss during the war years. So he had to leave his white waistcoat behind, and it got moth-eaten, and he couldn't wear it again when he got back from the war. Picture the scene. Paraffin lamps. The locals in their best clothes, most of them wearing boots. The women mostly in blouse and skirt, all awaiting the first notes of the battered old fiddle to strike up the grand march, then straight into Circassian Circle. As a youngster, Circassian Circle is one of the other dances they used to dance. As a youngster, I sat and watched with eyes popping, completely hooked on this great spectacle. The smell, I recall, was that of sweaty bodies. I mean, sweaty bodies. The men, I suppose, like Dad, wore long drawers and must have been almost cooked. The smell of roset from the lads who worked in the woods, the smell of roset of the men who worked in the woods, mingled with farm smells and the unmistakable aroma of mothballs. The women, a little more refined, smelt of scent, Californian poppy, 6pence in Woolworths. That smell, I can remember it yet. Do you remember Californian poppy? Awfully long years ago, but it was the cheapest, nastiest perfume you could imagine, but it was still in my lifetime, California poppy. Mum, herself never a dancer, used to warn us two boys to stand well back when they do the Lancers. And we had to come straight home when the Lancers was finished. As Dad called the dance from the platform, he was MC as well, and we used to beg him, Dad, don't put on the Lancers too soon. When the Lancers was called, we retreated to the door and watched. What a spectacle. And the highlight of the dance was what Dad called baskets. Now, have you ever seen baskets done? People still did baskets in my lifetime at the dances. You take the women and you get the women off their legs and they're going around in a basket. The men get the women right up off their legs and they're barreling round in a basket. It's dangerous. You get a feet in your face if you. So Granny was panic-stricken in case the kids would get mown over in the baskets. When the Lancers were called, we retreated to the door and watched. What a spectacle. And the highlight of the dance was what Dad called baskets, though we did not then understand why. This was the point when the men barreled around at such speed that the women were airborne. We saw their bloomers. Bloomers is big pants. The boys would be watching to see if they could see the women's drawers in pants. Underwear.
Big, short, big. Underwear. Big.
Yeah, big.
And I think, frilly.
Frilly. Frills at the bottom. This is amazing. We used to know who was the best barreler and who could lift the women the highest. See, these kids had been watching to see where the best view of the bloomers was. Of the pants. Mum's worries about injury to spectators were well founded because she was scared that her kids were going to get hurt. Because I remember this vaguely when the men would barrel you. When I was a student, sometimes the boys would do it to you, and Jesus, you were flying around with your legs right out, you know.
Did you get barreled?
I did get barreled, yeah. Meanwhile, the gentry up in the big house, remember we talked about the toffs last week, the gentry in the big house had their own form of entertainment. A world that we as youngsters knew nothing of. We were not allowed even to be seen near the big house. It's very interesting. They weren't allowed to be seen near the big house, near the toff's house. We were taught that we had to respect these people who smelled not of sweat, roset, or farm manure, but of tweeds, cigar smoke, and French perfume. The lady of the big house decided that a bit of culture should be brought into the lives of us ordinary folk, and members of a string orchestra were engaged to entertain. The locals duly turned up to hear Mozart, Schubert, and Bach. and applaud politely. They listened, but it was not their kind of music. My dad was doorkeeper on this occasion, and they left. And as they left, the comment was made, "Where's your fiddle, Bob? Where is your fiddle? We want to hear a right tune, a real tune." Dad smiled and was secretly greatly chuffed. My parents sent me to learn the fiddle, but I did not make much of it. I hated the sound I made. I was always attracted to dance classes, so I packed in the fiddle and with my 1 and 6pence went instead to lessons in ballroom dancing. As a serviceman during the Second War, I was able to put this experience to good use in such places as the Tower Ballroom in Blackpool, which is the centre of the universe as far as ballroom dancing is concerned, apparently. Blackpool, but was later brought down to earth when stationed at a small airfield near Paris. Dr. Donald Caskey, the Tartan Pimpernel, he was a resistance, he was a Scot, but he was a resistance, he worked with the French resistance, and some of these airmen used to go and have secret kind of ceilidhs in Paris, apparently. I didn't know this, but until I read this, I didn't know this, my father had done that. He invited me to a ceilidh in his home in Paris, and where he said, we do a few Scots dances. I found that I was totally inept at the 8-song reels, and I was determined to rectify this. After the war, my work took me to various parts of Scotland, and I had the opportunity to learn Scottish country dancing, which I always thoroughly enjoyed. Completely hooked as I was on Scottish music and dance, but at the back of my mind I always hankered back to the great fun of the old-time village hall dances. The wonderful spectacle on television of Jimmy Shand and the dances at Letham kindled a spark in me that I found hard to extinguish. Were the dances that I knew in my childhood coming back? I often wondered if Dad would have approved of the sophistication and precision of the modern Scottish country dances, and sometimes I almost felt like a defector. He had thought it prissy to be holding the woman at arm's length. It's grabbing, you know, it's the baskets, you had to really hold people. It's nae natural, that's the why the toffs dance. He didn't think that was natural. And he'd say, should the likes of me care tuppence about castle or mansion or spire, the folk that were my folk lived by their skills in smiddy and bakehouse and byre. Though their hames are but rickles to us, they hae left their music, their smedum, their speak. Keep playing it, saying it, ever keep faith. Keep it here for our bairns should they seek. So that's a few stanzas from another poem of my mother's. And he's put it in there. The folk that were should the likes of me give tuppence about castle or mansion or spire, the folk that were my folk lived by their skills in smiddy, which is where you shoe horses, in bakehouse and byre, which is place where you have cows. Though their homes are but rickles, or though their homes are but fallen down piles of stones, to us they have left their music, their smedum. Smedum is mother wit. And their speak, their language. Keep playing it, saying it, ever keep faith with it, and pass it on to our children if they seek. Which is my real motivation for doing all of this, because we're losing it. In our homogenized existence, we're losing the spirit of our inheritance, really, and that which helps us belong and that which helps us absorb other souls who want to be part of it. We need to keep it, not as a fossil, but as a living entity, as a living happening, so that people who are displaced in wherever or who feel a lack of sense of belonging can belong. My story is now brought up to date as I find myself dancing at the summer school at Stirling University. We did dances that I remember from my days in the village hall, lancers, quadrilles, and my dad's favourite, lava. Bert and I used to sing as he played. Can you nae do lava? Can you nae do lava? If you can't do lava, you're nae use at all. Can you not do lava? Can you not? I don't know what lava is. It's one of the dances. Can you not do lava? If you can't do lava, it's no use at all. All these and many more were expertly taught at Stirling by Jessie Stewart from Dufton and resulted for me in 4 days of nostalgia and enjoyment, of which Bob the Fiddler would have heartily approved. All the characters in the early part of my story are now gone. Mum and Dad are long since buried in Tulloch on Deeside, and Bert is commemorated along with them on their headstone. My brother never lived to experience the joy I had in dancing. War and a Wellington bomber saw to that. We are told that Tulloch Kirkyard, which is near Ballater, where my mother comes from, was the scene of the first reel of Tulloch, which is a very famous reel, where the congregation danced while waiting for the minister on a cold Sunday. I often stop there on my visits up Deeside, and in my imagination I hear the strains of the old fiddle, or perhaps just a curlew wheepling across the mere. I often stop there when my visits up Deeside, and in my imagination I hear the strains of the old fiddle, or perhaps just a curlew wheepling across the moor. Curlew, the sound of the curlew on the moor. I suppose if Bob the Fiddler appeared at the Accordion and Fiddle Club today, he would be outclassed by the many talented young players. Such is the standard of playing now that expectations are higher, audiences have become more critical, and enjoyment more difficult to achieve. In Bob's day, people expected less but got much more pleasure from his playing because he played fae the heart, from the heart. So that's one of my father's last dances. He's all over the place in this. He's just dancing all the time, and this is his. That's my father in his latter years dancing. So I put that in because that was very much part of the fabric of life here. Dances, singing, sharing, and sharing at that level, but there was no competition in it. We've turned life into a competition a lot of the time. So now you get who's the best, and who's the best, but there was no best there. They were all just sharing what they had and supporting each other in that process. I don't know, years ago I used to live in Shropshire, and I heard there was an old man who was ill up the road, and so I went to see him, and he was from Turriff. Turriff is one, Turriff. And he was brought up on these, and he's living in England. Not that there's anything wrong with living in England, but you didn't get many bothy ballads in England, do you? So I went and I sang to him all these old bothy ballads. And I still remember his face, and that old man was Bill's dad, Bill Henderson. You know Bill?
Oh, yes.
So Bill inherited a lot from his lineage. So Bill loves the music, although I don't hear him singing bothy ballads. He will have heard them. Does anybody any questions about any of this before we go on to another song? It's a much easier song than that one. I put that one in because I thought that it really does go through the way of life and the language. And now we're going to sing a different song. We're going to sing The Plumen Laddies. And this is a song about a girl. Does anybody get any questions before I move on to? We're going to sing The Plumen Laddies, and we'll all be singing that because it's an easier song than howling in the kitchen like a caravan of tinkies. So the Plumen Laddies, that's a beautiful song. It's about a young woman, a young girl that fancies the pants off this ploughman, and she's going to get him. And the chorus is, sing laddie I and sing laddie O, the Plumen laddies are all the go. And it's the language is much easier, although it's Doric. Down yonder den there's a Plumen lad, and a summer's day, one summer's day, he'll be all my own. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. I love his cheeks and I love his chin. I love his cheeks and I love his chin. I love the very cart he hurls in. And ilka time, and each time I go to the stack, I think it must be a stack of sticks or peat or something, I don't know what she's going to the stack for, I hear his whip give another crack. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. Down yonder den I could have gotten a merchant, but all his stuff wasn't worth a groat. A groat is a piece of money, a coin, aye. And down yonder den I could have gotten a miller, but the smell of dust would have messed my head. It done me ill. And the last verse is, and now she's gotten her plume and lad, as bare as ever he left the plough. You just got to think into that one, you know, but there you go. And it's a lovely song about the women's perspective in these things. We get an awful lot of, we've got a lot of songs that are about the man's perspective in the bothy, but this is a woman's one. So I'll sing it to you, and then we'll sing it. We'll sing it 2 or 3 times till we get it. I'm always going to put these up on YouTube so you can learn them as you want. If it just speaks to you, learn it. If it doesn't speak to you, pass it by. Down yonder den, there's a plume and lad, and a summer's day he'll be all mine. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. That's the chorus. So we do the chorus and I'll sing it each. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. Again. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. Again. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. Down yonder den there's a plume and lad, and a summer's day he'll be all mine. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. I'll loo his cheeks and I'll loo his chin, I'll loo the very cart he hurls in. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. And ilka times I gang to the stack, I hear his wheep gie another crack. And sing laddie I and sing laddie o, the plume and laddies are all the go. Down yonder den I could have gotten a miller, but the smell of dust would hae done me ill. And sing laddie I and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. Doon yonder den, I could have gotten a merchant, but his stuff was not worth a groat. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. And now she's gotten her Plumon lad, as bare as ever he left the Plew. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. Well done. That was lovely. Should we do it again? Should we do it again? Yeah, okay. We'll take it up a little bit because we kind of fell down there a bit, tight a bit. Who cares? But there you go. Doon yonder den, there's a Plumon lad, and a summer's day he'll be all mine. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. I loo his cheeks, and I loo his chin, I loo the very cart he hurls in. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. And ilka times I gang to the stack, I hear his wheep gie another crack. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. Doon yonder den, I could have gotten a miller, but the smell of dust would have done me ill. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. And doon yonder den, I could have gotten a merchant, but all his stuff was not worth a groat. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. And now she's gotten her Plumon lad, as bare as ever he's left the Plew. And sing laddie-I, and sing laddie-o. The Plumon laddies are all the go. Lovely. It's a lovely song, is it? It's an easy song. You enjoyed that? Oh, I love it too. Just love it, love it, love it. Now, shall we sing another song then? Shall we do another one? Yeah. Right. I'll have to put that on YouTube. Never mind. What kind of song? Do you want a bothy song, or would you like a love kind of, maybe Loving Hannah? Oh, it's a beautiful song, Loving Hannah.
Yeah, a bit of love.
A bit of love. I'm doing love in another chapter, you know, but we'll do a bit of love. So this is a song about a similar kind of guy, man, and he goes to church. It's not difficult, Doric, this one. I went to church on Sunday. My love, she passed me by. I knew her mind was changing by the roving of her eye. He saw her looking at other men. But by the roving of her eye, by the roving of her eye, I knew her mind was changing by the roving of her eye. My love is fair and proper, with fingers long and small, and she is quite good looking, and that's the best of all. Oh, Hannah, loving Hannah, come give to me your hand. You said that if you'd marry, that I would be your man. Oh, no. Yeah. And then I will go down to the water when everyone's asleep. I'll think of loving Hannah and then sit down and weep. Oh, no, it's pathos, really. I can't remember. I always try and remember where I learnt these songs, and this one, I can't mind where I learnt this one. I just loved it, though. I'll sing it to you. And the chorus is, by the roving of her eye, by the roving of her eye. I knew her mind was changing by the roving of her eye. Oh. Okay. Loving Hannah. I think I learnt this one at university. Anyway, I didn't learn it off the Travellers. It's a song. You see, they would have all gone to church when they were in the boat, you know, they were church goers, a lot of them. My family were, you know, church goers. Not all of them, but it was very much done. And that's where you had your romantic entanglements at the kirk, under the covers of everything. So he's sitting, desperate, really, poor soul. I went to the kirk on Sunday. My love, she passed me by. I knew her mind was changing by the roving o' her eye, by the roving o' her eye, by the roving o' her eye. I knew her mind was changing by the roving o' her eye. Oh, my love is fair and proper, with fingers long and small, and she is quite good looking, and that's the best of all, and that's the best of all, and that's the best of all, and she is quite good looking, and that's the best of all. Oh, Hannah, loving Hannah, give to me your hand. You said that if you'd marry, that I would be the one, that I would be the one, that I would be the one. You said that if you'd marry, that I would be the one. I will go down by the water when everyone's asleep. I'll think on love and Hannah, and then sit down and weep, and then sit down and weep, and then sit down and weep. I'll think on love and Hannah, and then sit down and weep. Shall I put that one up? Do you like that one?
Yeah.
It's a difficult one to sing.
Is it?
Well, I think so.
It's a beautiful one to watch you singing.
Yeah.
Is it?
Just watching.
Oh, yeah. I just get right in these songs. I'm really just in there. I'm thinking about this poor man in the church, and oh my God, it must be awful to be in that position if you're a man and you're in love with this woman and she's looking at, oh gee, gods and golden fishes. I never thought like that when I was a kid. You know, I never thought when I was like 21 might have done that to men. Really, you know. But anyway, I'm thinking about that when I'm singing. It's another beautiful. I'm on a roll now with these songs, but I'm going to sing another one song, yeah, because I've got time to do that. And this is Lassie with the Yellow Coatie. It's a beautiful little song. And Lassie with the Yellow Coatie. And the last time I sang this was in Aberlour Parish Church on the balcony as a young couple were getting married. They asked if I would sing them this. It's a beautiful song. Quite often when I'm doing a wedding thing, I might sing the RSK Love Lilt, which is so beautiful, but that's for another time, the RSK Love Lilt. And I don't sing it like I used to sing it because I've understood more about the song. But this Lassie with the Yellow Coatie is just a local song, and I'll sing it to you. Lassie with the Yellow Coatie, will you wed a moorland jockey? Will you marry a moorland young jockey man? Jockey is just a guy. Lassie with the Yellow Coatie, will you busk? Will you get dressed and will you come with me? I have milk and meal in plenty. I have cakes and kale. I have kale to eat and I have cakes. And then all for you. I have a Button Ben, which is a Button Ben's a two-roomed house. I have a Button Ben, Fugenti, just waiting for you. All I need's a wife like thee. And then the next verse is, it's just exquisite, the words of this. Haste ye, lassie, hurry up, lassie, to my bosom, while the roses are in blossom. Time is precious, dinna lose them, don't lose them. Flowers will fade and so will you. Because, you know, the idea of the rose fading and bloom. So don't wait around, you know, we got to get together, you know. I'm getting to marry you with your yellow coatie. And, you know, it's just a beautiful song. So the chorus is, well, it's a song, it's a sing-along one, so I'll sing it maybe 2 or 3 times. It's a little short song, but it's very beautiful, you know, the idea, just the ideas in it. Yellow coat is a lassie, young woman with a yellow coat. Will you marry a moorland young man? Lassie with a yellow coat, will you busk? Will you get ready? Will you get dressed and come with me? I have milk and meal in plenty. I have cakes and kale for you and then ye. I have a button ben, I have a house, a button a ben. Food genty, kind of couthie, what's the word? You know, food genty is like couthie. It's kind for you. It's a kind of kind place. All I want's a wife like you. Haste you, young woman, to my bosom, while the roses are in blossom. Time is precious. Don't lose them. Flowers will fade, and so will you.
It's always a bit of melancholy.
A bit of melancholy and it's a bit of misery, but it's not really misery. What do you think?
It's reality. No,
It's reality.
important.
It's so important. They're beautiful songs, these are.
Beautiful.
Did you not hear these kind of songs before?
There's a word that Nick Cave talks about in his songs called duende, I think he calls it. That's a mixture of like pathos and joy and
Yes.
There's grief
Yes.
and joy it's often in the song, the notes, the words. He talks about.
Nick Cave talks about.
Nick Cave.
I love Nick Cave.
Yeah.
Did you see him at what's the funeral of? Oh my God, that was exquisite, wasn't it? Just a most beautiful funeral.
I think
The guy, what's his name? Shane MacGowan, yeah, Shane MacGowan. Now, I always misunderstood Shane MacGowan until he died. Story of people's lives, I guess. I used to go, oh, come on, you know, because he was so full on and so angry and so, you know, out of it most of the time. And I didn't pay much attention to him until he died, and I began to read his lyrics. I watched a documentary on BBC iPlayer, which was Kist of Gold. Crock of Gold, yes, Crock of Gold, thanks, Kyla. And it was just all about his Irish roots, and all his work was about bringing, he was a real pioneer, you know, a very, what should I say the word? He was, on the edge of existence person, but bringing something that he was holding so dear to his heart to a bigger audience, to young people who wouldn't have had it had he not been doing it. And now I see, oh my God, sorry, I misunderstood you. I didn't pay enough attention. I wished God I had, because I loved his lyrics are just beautiful. Some of his lyrics are really beautiful. And at his funeral, Nick Cave was there, and various others of the, you know, the Hothouse Flowers guy, whatever his name is, Liam O'Monley, and they were singing at his funeral. It was a singing funeral.
Well, he was trying to keep the tradition, wasn't he? So
He was.
Had his roots ripped from under his feet.
He did.
At the age of 6.
He did. He was taken to England, and
Yeah.
he was very bright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so his whole life beyond that was like the trauma he went through.
Yeah.
Never going back there.
Yeah, it was taken away from him. That very precious stuff that we're talking about tonight, suddenly he was transported into where did they live? Milton? No, not Milton Keynes. Somewhere like south of London. He was so bright. He went to Westminster School, you know, and he was just completely overwhelmed by not fitting in because he had that huge Irish. Well, he had this, and he was desperate for the loss of it. So where were we? What was I going to be doing now?
It was that,
Nick Cave.
but it was that.
The melancholy and the paradox. Yeah. Lassie with the Yellow Coatie. There's lots of songs like that. There's huge limits of songs like that. Yeah. And in the tradition, there's songs about rape, there's songs about, about incest. There's all the shadow of human experience in these songs too. Welcome. Welcome. Did you wake up? Yeah. You did. Come on in then. Come in. There's a fine piece for you there if you want a bit of the fine piece.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Put it round again so the sugar addicts will have some more. If you have to take it home if you don't eat the stuff. That's tablet. That's Scots tablet. Yeah. I made it. I'm going to try and make all these recipes, the old recipes my granny used to make. Last week it was clootie dumpling. I boiled it in a bag. So this is a beautiful song, Lassie with the Yellow Coatie. Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? I hae milk and meal in plenty, I hae cakes and kale and enty, I hae a bat and ben fu genty. Oh, I want a wife like thee, lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? Haste thee, lassie, tae my bosom, while the roses are in blossom. Lights are as precious, dinna lose them, flowers will fade, and say will we. Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with the yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? Very simple little song. Do you want to sing it? Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? Take it up a wee bit. Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? I hae milk and meal in plenty, I hae cakes and kale and enty, I hae a bat and ben fu genty. Oh, I want a wife like thee, lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye wad a mule and jockey? Lassie with a yellow coatie, will ye busk and gang wi' me? Hasty lassie, tae my bosom, while the roses are in blossom. Time is precious, dinna lose them, flowers will fade, and say will we. Lassie with a yellow coat coatie. Will ye wad a mule and jockey, lassie wi' the yellow coatie? Will ye bask and gan wi' me? It's a lovely wee song. I might put that one on YouTube as well, if you want to learn that
Yeah,
one.
I like that one. It's simpler.
Very simpler, yeah. I mean, but the first one was a complex song because it had so much of the language in it, and it's a difficult one to learn. But it's important to hear the language because that's the language that was spoken here, and more along towards the northeast and down into Aberdeen, all the way that was the language. And it is the language. There's still folk that speak really broad. You can go to some places and you can't understand even I struggle. But it's dying out in lots of ways now because as my mother said, we're not keeping faith with it really. Where, although it can cope with all sorts, the language, we're not using it as we could be using it. And often I don't use it now. It's a loss.
Madge, when you were in Argyll with the Gaelic people,
Yeah.
were you speaking, was there any Doric then amongst them?
No. And I had to speak, I couldn't speak Doric because they wouldn't have understood what I was saying. And I had a nickname when we lived in Persia, when I had a nickname at school which was Haddie.
Haddie.
Haddie. It was horrible. Because they said it was like I was from Aberdeen and I was a haddock. Because that's where the fish came for the fish. That's the fish fucking play. That's kind of if you took a cat, ken what I mean? And that's why you speak there, ken what I mean? And it's all cat you ken and you don't understand a word. That kind of thing. And when I went to the West Coast, I was saying last, the language is because the landscape is different. And so, I much preferred it if the truth were absolutely known. If I didn't think I was going to betray my family by ditching Doric and sing, but I learned all the tunes. I got all the tunes just went in like litmus. I've got all the Gaelic tunes, but the words, but the people are also different, slightly different. I was explaining last week, my grandfather sang me a song so that I could not get too affected by the West Coast because he was an East Coast man, and so I had to learn this. He used to say last week I sang one of his songs about a lady that got above her station. And anyway, that was it was called the Clark and the Hawfish, and it's a piss take of the people that live in that part of the world. But so when I was in that part of the world, I learnt the music of that place and the music that was in the land of that place, and so I never sang in the Gaelic mods. I never ever got into competition. Because I never could bear it, because our music's gotten into competitions. We've got piping competitions and bothy ballad competitions and mod competitions. And I remember once in my adult life going to a mod and listening. This was the biggest joke I ever saw. I was just, oh my God. I went into a room and people had to sing in Gaelic a lullaby, and they were marked. And I'm sitting there thinking of this bairn saying, "Mother, it's only a 65, I'm not sleeping now." You've got to get a 70 before I'm closing my eyes. You know, this kind of nonsense, it was just nonsense, and I couldn't bear it, and I never went back, and I never want to go back to that kind of competition, because our music's not for competitions. Everybody's contribution is as beautiful as the next, if it's from the heart. You know, and you can't be making judgments about it, but we've done that with our music. And it's not the best, you know, and so I don't get involved in any of that, ever. Because I can't get involved in it with integrity, really.
I wanted to ask you something,
Yeah.
Madge, that goes back to the song about the pig. Because a lot of it resonates, lots of it resonates with a lot of, although this is in Yorkshire and England, with my grandparents being in service and the big house and all that. But one of the lines, I think, or there's a bit about a plate of dripping.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that would be like bread and dripping, but
Yeah,
when you were
dripping.
talking about the culture and how they lived and the people and everything,
Very similar.
that it's if you came from very working class roots and there wasn't much money, and then it would be regular that would be fed bread and dripping.
Yeah, bread and dripping.
Pork dripping, or as they used to call it in Yorkshire, mucky fat.
Mucky fat, yeah.
But it just brings back so many memories, really. Although
Yeah.
we're singing, you know, you're singing in Doric and
Yeah.
and such like that. There are echoes of it in my childhood and from my grandparents as well. When you make the most of what you've got, but
exactly.
that earthiness of the
Earthiness.
of the smells of the
The smells.
and such like. But in the big house, it's
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it echoes back. It resonates back for me.
I'll sing you another Bothy ballad before we go then. I'm just getting on my go here. But because it teaches you, you know, it's not a difficult one, I don't think. It's the pair of Nicky Tams. The Nicky Tams were things that they had to tie around their tops of their legs to stop the rats going up their legs in the grain bins. So you keep your clothes off the ground and getting mucky, but particularly to keep the rats from going up your legs in the grain bins, because they were in the grain bins. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Yes.
What do you mean by green bin?
Well, they had the farms were making huge amounts of grain, and they were in these silos, and you had to go walk about in them, and the rats would get up your legs. And the Nicky Tams were a pair of, you know, and this shows you something interesting. I'll tell you what, this is very interesting, this song, because it tells you about the kind of social, you know, this is a young man singing. And he starts, when I was only 10-year-old, I left the parish school. My father feed me to the mains to chaw his milk and meal. I started off, so first I put on my narrow trousers to cover over my spindly legs. Then buckled round my knees a pair of Nicky Tams. And then the thing moves on. I'm courting Bonnie Annie now. Bonnie Annie is now Pretty Annie. Rob Thompson's kitchen dame. She works in the kitchen at Rob Thompson's farm. She is 5 and 40 and I'm 17. She clarts a muckle piece to me. She spreads a great piece of, like a fine piece to me with different kinds of jams. And she tells me at Elkanech that she admires my Nicky Tams. I started out one Sunday to the church to go. My collar, it was tight, very tight. My trousers weren't long enough. I had my Bible in my pocket, likewise my book of Psalms. When Annie wrote, "You muckle, you idiot, take off your Nicky Tams," you're in the church, take them off. So I took them off under protest to please the woman. And then my trousers, they went right up my legs. And a wasp went crawling up my leg in the middle of the Psalms. So I'm never going to the church again without my Nicky Tams. I've often thought I'd like to be a bobby, a policeman on the force, or maybe I get on the trams and I drive a pair of horse. But whatever it is, my luck to be the bobbies or the trams, I'll never forget the happy days I wore my Nicky Tams. I don't know whether he got off with Annie or not. Don't know the rest of the story, but it's all in there. And those things were happening, you know?
So how old was Annie?
hang on just a sec. 5 and 40 and I was 17. Only a year before it's legal. No, I'm only joking. I don't know the story. But this is, this is the kind of stuff that people were singing. When I was only 10 year old, I left the parish squeal. My father feed me to the mains to chaw his milk and meal. First I put on my nether bricks to hop my spinel from sign. Buckled round my napping knees a pair o' Nicky Tams. I'm courting Bonnie Annie, new Rab Thompson's kitchen dame. She is 5 and 40 and I am 17. She clarts a muckle piece to me with different kinds of jams, and she tells me ilka nicht that she admires my Nicky Tams. I started out a Sunday to the kirkie for to gang my collar. It was anker-tacht, my breeks were nine hour long. I had my Bible in my pooch. Likewise my book o' Psalms, Fin Annie wrote, you muckle gype, tak off your Nicky Tams. So Uncle Swear I took 'em off a lassie for to please, and I my breeks they lurk it up around about my knees. A wasp good crawling up my leg in the middle o' the Psalms. So never again I'll I enter the kirk without my Nicky Tams. I've often thought I'd like to be a bobby on the force, or maybe I'd get on the cars to drive a pair of horse. But whatever it is, my luck to be the bobbies or the trams, I'll never forget the happy days I wore my Nicky Tams. That's Nicky Tams. I could go on all night with these songs. They're just silly, but they're, they teach you so much about the way people saw life. And and then there's another beautiful, I won't sing this one, but there's beautiful, this woman's lamenting because when I was cook about the house, she said, once upon a time when I was young and bonny, once I had a bonny lad, but now I don't have one. She's in her 40s and she's getting broody. So when I was cook about the house, and he was but a laddie, I gied him all my breeding ale to be my bairnie's daddy. Do you get that one? Right, once upon a time when I was young and pretty, I had a bonny lad, but now I don't, because I'm getting on. But when I was cook in the house, and he was but a young man, I gave him all my bread and my ale in order that he could be my child's father. So she seduced him with bread and ale, and then the story goes on. I can't mind the rest of the story, but it's that kind of, there's so many complexions of human existence in these songs, and how they overcame things and how they lived. It's just a whole, it's part of our intangible heritage, really. Sad.
No, it's beautiful. That's so earthy and practical.
What? This?
Yeah, to the boys, to feed him up, give them...
Give him, absolutely, sure. And the cooks were the...
My child.
And the cooks were the high status. If you had a good cook, you kept her. And before you were a cook, you were a kitchen dame, a kitchen girl. So you had to graduate to being a cook. And a cook had a lot of power over the men. So she got, she just fed them up and things happened. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to sort of soon finish, but next week we're going to get into the beginnings of life. So we're going to do 3 lullabies, beautiful, beautiful lullabies. And 2 of them my mother taught me, and another one is a Gaelic one. And these are so we're going to start. We've looked at transmission first week, and if you've missed that, you can see it on YouTube. Thank you, Craig, and bless you. And the next, and this one's about the local area, quite a light one. But then we're going to go into babies and beginnings of life, and then we're moving on into love and its different complexions in some of the love songs, and the pathos of life. What was that word? That was wonderful.
Duende.
Duende, yeah, that. And then we'll look at the healing, but we're not, I remember what I did. I've got a lot of my life in the Republic of Georgia where I went to in search of their songs, and it was stunning, and I had a great time, and I learnt an awful lot because their culture is where I was when I was a child. So I was singing with them and with the old songmasters, singing and learning songs, and a lot of people would come in search of their healing songs, because they have songs to the spirits. We have too, but we've lost them. So my work is in reclaiming them. Really, that's my life's work now. So this is just a moving into that. But I remember people saying, we've come to learn the healing songs. And I remember one particular old man saying to them, what do you mean the healing songs are all healing? They're all healing. So if you really learn McGinty's Meal and Ale and you're having a bad day, you know what? It's great fun. There's always the pig. For me, there are songs of activism. And I think that we can make changes through song. And I've been feeling very distressed about what's happening in Gaza. And I did the spiral in the Universal Hall, and I came away thinking, what can I do? What I can sing. So I've been learning the most beautiful ancient Cantarach, Pibroch chant. And so I came back, and a very beautiful guy who was a professor of English, he was a storyteller and a scholar, a guy called Arafat Al-Arir, had written the most beautiful poem. I don't have it with me, but I put it on YouTube. And he'd written the most beautiful poem, was basically, if I should die. So if I should die, what you have to do with my belongings is you have to sort out my things, and you have to get some fabric and make a kite and have a long string on the kite, and the white kite, and a child who is in Gaza who is having horror happen, and his father is dying beside him, can look up just for a moment and see the kite that you made and think, maybe an angel was there bringing back love. And that concept, that was just so beautiful, and I thought, I've got to do something with this. And it was a call to action, and then at the end, the last line was, let it be a tale. Let that be a tale, because he was a storyteller.
And he wanted storytelling, didn't he?
Yes. And so I came home and I just wrote some words, because it was a call to action. And it was Christmas. It was a solstice day, and I thought, I'm doing this before the end of solstice day, solstice night. So in the solstice night beside the Christmas tree, I'm chanting this beautiful chant with words that I've written in response. And within 48 hours, I get connections from his friends in Gaza, coming back saying thank you. It's just a tiny thing. And one of them said, when we're through this, will you come and sing that? So there's possibilities to still, Peggy Seeger did all of this. Yeah. I'm going to be an engineer, you know, that amazing. She was a pioneer of, you know, making women's, you know, I don't want to be I want to be an engineer. And I'm wearing my corduroys and I'm doing, you know, that's that kind of thing. And so I think there's, you know, there's music for activism that is woven out of our cultural background. And we have our own grief tending, and we have our own sounds of grief, and we have our own holding of grief. And although what you've heard tonight is the lighter sides, we have beautiful, beautiful music that holds grief traditionally, and we've lost it. It still exists, but we don't use it for that purpose. When we have a funeral, generally speaking, it's half an hour in a crematorium, shaking hands and goodbye. I know we do it slightly differently here sometimes, but that's the norm for people. There's no way of grieving, and people hold their grief and they can't transform it. And so for me, that's what our music's about. You know, it's for the process of human transformation, as I said last week. So we're going to be doing that towards the end. We're going to get deeper into this. And I may do another whole set of 6 on grief and on those songs, because we so need it, And it's not happening. You know, we're still using a lot of our songs for performance and entertainment.
Can I just say, Madge, I've had a super difficult day today with my little boy. He has big struggles, and I came here with quite a heaviness in me. And as soon as we started singing, honestly, it's as if all that transmuted and disappeared. Honestly,
Wow.
Seriously.
Oh,
Yeah.
how good is that?
Mm,
How good is that?
beautiful.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Come back next week. What have they got to do, Craig? Press a button on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Madge Bray Traditional Futures. And it's all on there. So we'll put all the, I don't know if I'll put all the songs that I did tonight. I was only going to put 2 on, but there's 2 already going to go on. But I might record them and put them on so that you can learn them if you want, and so that it means something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Oh.